Here are 8 of my favorite hikes from around the world, from multi-day backpacking hikes to day hikes that I highly recommend you try in 2025. These hikes range from those in national parks to those that require a permit via lottery system to those that require no planning at all. These hikes take you around the world to some of the most beautiful places with epic views. This list is in no particular order, as each of these are amazing in their own right. I hope that these inspire you for your next adventure. Before we get started, I am Heather, known on trail as Indy, and I am a hiker and backpacker. And if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Starting off with, the Subway is a small slot canyon within the Zion National Park system that requires a permit via a lottery system. Once the lottery window opens up, you can attempt to get a permit up to 4 months in advance of your planned dates. Be prepared to have multiple date options. If you are lucky enough to win the lottery and score a permit, you will have the option of doing this hike 2 ways, either via a canyoneering route or strictly hiking. The route I took is known as the bottom-up hike and is an out and back hike with no overnights allowed and is considered a very strenuous 9-mile hike with route finding, and most of the hiking is in ankle to knee deep water and scrambling over large boulders. This route begins and ends at the Left Fork trailhead on the Colchuck Terrace Road. As you approach the end, the canyon walls come together in the shape known as the Subway, where you may see a waterfall and multiple pools of water. The Timberline Trail is a roughly 42-ish mile loop around Oregon's highest point, Mount Hood. Since this is a loop, you can start the hike at various points, but the easiest is to start and end at Timberline Lodge, where there is ample parking. The trail consists of many big river fords, even during the summer months. It takes you into glacier-carved canyons, up to beautiful views above tree line of the surrounding mountains, potential snowfield crossings, and some gorgeous meadows with wildflowers. The trail also takes you directly by the popular Ramona Falls. This hike can typically be done in 3 to 4 days. One thing to note, the river crossing should not be taken lightly, and you should give yourself some extra time when planning for some of the major river fords. The Elliott River was the most intense river crossing I've personally ever crossed, and it lived up to the hype. The current was incredibly strong, so you had to move slowly and intentionally, but the water was freezing, which made it hard. Overall, you have about 12,000 feet of elevation gain, and there are plenty of camping spots along the route. Once finished, you can stop in the Timberline Lodge to visit the beautiful lobby and see where the movie The Schynige was filmed. The lodge is also famous for its all-you-can-eat buffet. The Schynige Platte Panorama Ridge Trail is located outside the Interlaken area in Switzerland and is a top hike in the Jungfrau region. This hike starts by taking a vintage cogwheel train to the top of Schynige Platte. The train ride is just under an hour long and adds to the overall experience as you are given breathtaking views on the way up. There is also a cafe at the top if you'd like to stop for a bite to eat and relax before or after the hike and take in some of the best views in the world. The hike itself is about 3.5 miles and takes 1.5 to 2 hours to complete. The Ridge Trail is incredibly charming with insane mountain views, surrounding peaks, and beautiful meadows filled with wildflowers. The trail is easily marked and has minimal elevation gain with some small sets of switchbacks and is considered a moderate hike. If you find yourself in the Interlaken area, I highly recommend making a point to do this hike. The hike to Colchuck Lake is an 8.7-mile out-and-back hike to one of the bluest lakes I've ever seen in person. You should plan on anywhere from 4 to 5 hours for this hike. It has almost 3,000 feet of elevation gain. You can access the trail outside Leavenworth, Washington, and is part of the beautiful Alpine Lakes Wilderness area. The trail starts out pretty easy and includes some small creek crossings, and then you get into some boulder fields. The second half of the trail does get steeper and includes some sets of switchbacks, but once you get your first glimpse of the lake, it hits you as it's even more beautiful in person than seen in the pictures. The lake sits below between the twin spires of Dragon Tail and Colchuck Peaks. The towering jagged edges reflect down into the clear blue water of Colchuck Lake. I did the hike in late fall season, and while the weather was overcast, it was still incredibly beautiful, and I was lucky enough to have the lake to myself for a while. This is considered a moderate to easy hike, and the views are absolutely worth it. The hike to Ptarmigan Tunnel itself is a 10.5-mile round-trip hike that starts at the Iceberg Lake Trailhead in Glacier National Park. The hike starts out with impressive views of the surrounding mountains, including the 8,851-foot Mount Grinnell and his prime bear territory. During our hike, we had hikers coming back out stating that they had just seen a mom and cub, so be sure to make lots of noise and carry bear spray. The Ptarmigan Wall separates the mini Glacier Valley from the Belly River Valley and was built in the early 1930s. The climb up to the tunnel is somewhat steep as you gain decent elevation in a short period of time, but the views at the top from both sides of the tunnel are absolutely worth it. From the south side, you can see back down into the Ptarmigan Lake and the valley that it sits in. Once walking through the tunnel, you have equally impressive views of the Old Sun Glacier and Elizabeth Lake. From here, you can turn around and retrace your steps or go get a backcountry permit and continue the hike down to the Lake Helen area. The hike down to Elizabeth Lake is another 6.4 miles where they have backcountry campsites. You can take another short trip over to Helen Lake as well, which is another approximately 1.5 miles. Antelope Canyon is located outside Page, Arizona, and is on Navajo Nation land and requires a guided tour. The Navajo name for Antelope Canyon is the place where water runs through the rocks. Tours sell out quickly, so it is important to book in advance. Antelope Canyon is one of the most stunning slot canyons, and a visit should not be passed up. The light in the canyon can vary drastically depending on the time of year and the time of day you visit, making the canyon walls look different colors. Peak season is late spring to early fall when the sun's position will ensure you have the spectacular light beams in the canyon. It is very important to check the weather as monsoon season can quickly cause flash floods in the canyon. The tour guides are very knowledgeable and explain how the slot canyon was formed. We also were greeted with some Navajo dancers while waiting for our tour to begin. The entire Colorado Trail is a hike that I highly recommend, but I specifically wanted to call out Segment 8 as a hike that shouldn't be missed. One disclaimer, I haven't finished the trail yet, so we'll see if I change my mind, but so far this portion of trail is by far my favorite. Segment 8 is 25.4 miles with over 4,000 feet of elevation gain and is considered a challenging route. It starts at Copper Mountain and goes to Tennessee Pass. The hike starts going across Copper ski slopes. However, when I did this last year, there was a reroute that took us right into Copper Village. Before continuing on to the Guller Creek Valley, which is a haven for moose, so be on the lookout at sundown or sunup. Once leaving the valley, you start making your ascent up to Searle Pass, where the views open up, but the portion of trail between Searle Pass and Kokomo Pass is particularly impressive. This part of the trail is to me the epitome of what the Colorado Trail is known for. There was plenty of wildlife in this area as well. Many marmots were playing around, as well as pika, and even I saw a couple ptarmigan. I will say that after descending down from the Kokomo Pass, the trail does become a little less impressive, but you are still rewarded with a nice small waterfall, and you can visit the Camp Hell bunkers and some old coke ovens before making your way into Tennessee Pass. I would recommend trying to get up towards Searle Pass early in the morning in order to see the beautiful morning light, but this is a portion of the Colorado Trail that is a must-see. The hike up to Lion's Head is one of Cape Town's most popular hikes and is for the most part very easy. It sits at 669 meters directly above sea level. As you near the top, there are some cables and ladders to climb, but you are rewarded with 360-degree views of Cape Town and the nearby Table Mountain. This is a fabulous hike to do at sunset if you have timed it right to be at the top as the sun is starting to set. The hike takes 1.5 to 2 hours and is a 3.5-mile hike. Be sure to allow extra time to enjoy the views at the top and take pictures. However, one word of caution is that this may not be the hike for you if you have any fear of heights. While Table Mountain is the more well-known hike in Cape Town, Lion's Head is by far my favorite. The views in Lion's Head cannot be beat. The hike to Lion's Head is a must-see if you find yourself in the Cape Town, South Africa area.